There. I think we're live.
Yeah, I think we're live.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Monday Night Live here on the GCF Youth Live YouTube page. So we're going to introduce ourselves.
Alright, tinawag kami ng mga youth leaders ninyo.
Para pagalitan.
Para to answer some questions. And just to start things off, ako si Kuya Dave.
Yes.
Youth leader. And that's really just it. I really don't have much roles. But, I was a former youth leader or head ng fellowship team. Used to be part of worship team. And now I'm just, discipling others. Because, sa youth na yung youth.
Yes, and of course, I'm Ate Ingrid Pagulayan, his wife. I used to also be very active with the youth ministry. But I am now with the women's ministry, also in GCF.
Alright, so let's start.
Yes, let's start. So maybe we can wait for some people to come in and join. Yes, you can go check us out on the GCF Youth page. The link is actually there for the YouTube. You just have to check it. And then we encourage you to come and join us. Just keep the conversation flowing. Let us know if you're tuned in. There's a chat box beside the video. So we would love to know who among you guys are watching this evening. We see Polo here. Of course, Shine. Andyan na siya. May 4 na heart. PJP, of course. Hi, PJP. Our Pasig B-boy. Saan pa ba? Let's check. Kasi we have to scroll down. Hello also to Didi and to Iris. Hi to Iris. Si Diadem. Hello from Kainta. It's just really nice that, technology has allowed us to do this, to, just keep in touch with each other. I know that a lot of us really miss going to church, diba? Kasi, natin yun it's been a regular thing for us to go there every Saturday, Sunday for worship, Saturday for the youth service, right? And of course, the other activities, you have your huddle night, and then yung mga meetings for the different ministries, right? So, but we're grateful.
And some of your favorite people are there too. Diba?
Yes. So we just have to contend with the social distancing for now. So we're just grateful that technology allows us to do that. And we're also very grateful to the team here at Youth Live. Grabe. You don't get to see them on camera all the time. You don't meet some of them. Hindi mo kilala yung names. Pero, there's really a solid team working behind this. So we just want to thank you for your service. We want to thank you for what you do for the Lord, just to keep this community alive and going on.
Connected even though we're miles apart. Diba?
Okay. So shall we start?
Okay, sino ba yung nandito na?
Dami na rin.
Dami
Yana,
na rin.
hi Yana. Si Michael Edwards Osmeña.
Wow. And there's
si Justine.
And Eyes.
Hi Justine. Balita ko kakatapos mo na mag-workout. Very good yan. So I hope that the rest of you also have been doing what you can to, just keep yourselves active then ngayong quarantine. One of the things, Dave and I then actually miss yung exercising. Yung regular exercise namin sa
anytime.
Gym. Yes, anytime.
That's one of the things that I miss before quarantine happened. Yung just go to the gym after work and just sweat it out. Ngayon, just nasa bahay lang.
Dito lang tayo sa bahay. You just have to, just still do it for health reasons, both physical tsaka mental din.
Yeah. I hope you also have a good schedule for yourselves. Sometimes it's so hard to to partition yung work sa home, sa work from home or
tsaka kasi nag-aaral.
Sa studies. Study from home. Parang ang hirap i-internalize. Nasa bahay ako pero nag-aaral ako. Di ba parang nag-homework lang ako. Di ba? It's good to have schedule partitions na tipong from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Doon ka nag-aaral, and after that, just do your workout, do whatever, play a video game, read a book.
Teka, Dave, paano pag inutusan sila ng nanay na maghugas ng
pinggan? Maghugas ng pinggan. Tama yan.
That's factored in din sa schedule, di ba? Household chores, the reality even if kami rin, we're working from home, ganun din we have to be able to fit in work and of course yung home life namin. We cannot let go of the chores.
I mean, buong araw kami nandito sa bahay, syempre marami ring dust and kalat na na-create. So, kailangan din namin linisin yon, di ba? And tapos, magluluto pa kami, ganon. Di ba? That factors into bago mag-lunch, bago mag-dinner, and whatever. Yeah. So, I hope quarantine life is treating you well. If not, yeah. Just have to stick with it. Hanggang May 31, supposedly, na lang naman daw. Hopefully, we can just bear the next few days, the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Yun.
So, shall we begin?
Yeah.
Dave?
All right.
Okay. Hobby, do take the lead.
So, yeah, just a few days ago, binato kami ng question ng some of your leaders. Now, it was very unassuming and very simple at that. But, when we got that request, napaisip kami, parang habang pinag-iisipan namin siya, there is more to this question than is presented. And the question is there a proper way to dress? And the more we thought about it, the more we realized how many layers we needed to unpack. Like, firstly, the fact in itself na tinanong yung question na yun, that in itself has depth and backstory, which could easily take up the whole day talking about, and then we have to deal with the definition of proper way, which in itself has layers of meanings to different kinds of people and cultures. And then the idea of clothing and Christianity. I think this requires a semester to unpack. Don't you think so?
Yeah, there's so many. I mean, when Dave and I were discussing it now, if it's just the question in itself, you just want an easy answer, sige, madali lang siguro. Kaya lang yun nga you can't just give one answer to a question like that. It depends rin kasi sino yung nagtatanong, para saan siya. So, there's really a lot to be discussed about it. There's so many considerations.
Yeah.
And we just hope that with what we prepared and how the Lord will be using us this evening, we'll be able to help enlighten you then. And it's also been a learning process for both of us as we were studying this.
Right, so we're gonna try to squeeze whatever we can in this short amount of time given to us and hope sana substantial siya. So we kind of have three major points or three outline points. Now, first is the purpose of clothing. We're not going to go delve too much into that. Next is the individual, the clothing and faith. That's our second point to tackle. What does it mean for an individual and to have faith, and what does it mean for your clothing?
How does it translate
How does it translate to your clothing? Yeah. And thirdly, community clothing and your faith. In the context ngayon of the community, tanggalin natin yung sarili natin from just an isolation, but we put ourselves into a community. And what does that mean for our clothing? What does that mean for our faith? So it really just those three major points pag-usapan namin tonight. Right. So do I just jump in?
Yeah, we begin of course with the purpose of clothing. So yung evolution, the reason why, saan ba talaga nagsimula? Why do people clothe themselves?
Yeah, again, we're not gonna delve too much into this. It's really just a backgrounder on how we want to start. Syempre, first, the purpose of clothing is to temper the elements.
Yeah.
So I guess back then, clothing really wasn't much of a fashion statement as much as it was more for practical reasons. You have in environments where you have cold weather, you'd see fully clothed, fur-covered layers of clothing among people in environments where you're tropical, you barely see any clothing. And it also same is true for protection.
Yes, for protection naman, there's actually a study about Neanderthals and then modern humans wherein, yun nga, na-discuss yung, one of the things researchers found is that early humans hunted animals, not just, of course, for food, but hinahanap nila rin specifically yung animals that provided protection with thicker, snugger fur coverings because they needed protection from the elements and also from other external factors. And I think one of the things na nabasa ko rin, kasi diba before, sobrang yung hairy talaga. But I think as time progressed rin, parang kumonti rin yung hair and so they turned to fur for their protection and covering because yung kapal ng fur talaga ng tao or yung hair before was enough to kind of protect and offer that kind of protection from the intense heat, from the cold. But, you know, as temperatures surged and all that, they needed that extra layer of protection. So, yun, that was why, yun, isa rin yun sa reasons why they use clothing.
Yeah, so those are really more of practical applications for clothing, why people wore clothing before. But because we are humans and, you know, somehow we evolved into appreciating symmetry, patterns, eventually self-expression. These can be seen in early cave drawings where you have imagery of hands marking their legacy to generations to come, or attempts to capture your identity, what one looks like, what a human being looks like, what I look like in cave drawings on walls. Later through other mediums. Ngayon, meron tayong photographs, you know.
Yes.
Yun.
And to back that up also, diba, since you mentioned mga cave drawings, if we look back even in Egypt, diba, in their walls, yung mga carvings,
right.
andun din yung different ways nila of dressing. And actually at that time na, it was already expression and it was already a status symbol for them.
Right.
Depende dun sa mga sinusuot. So in addition to expression and decoration, clothing also became symbolic.
Yes.
So it has become a means of communication up to this day. Now, in history class and even in when you read the Bible, there are certain clothes that convey specific meanings or specific states. Like, di ba, meron yung mga mourning clothes. There are also clothes that express a person's affiliation or what they do. So uniforms of members of the army, for example. You also have the high priests. They were prescribed a particular manner of dressing or yung clothing nila, which was symbolic and distinct.
Right. So, you know, we're not here to talk about art history.
Or clothing history.
Clothing history.
Background lang yun.
Yeah, backgrounder lang yun, just to set up like a foundation for everything. And there's a whole subject of art history that we're not really here for, so you can read up more about it online in National Geography or Discovery and whatever. So jumping forward from self-expression and creativity, I'd like to unpack ngayon the first layer, the individual, clothing, and faith. So what does the Bible say about self-expression and personality? So we're going to our second point, the individual, clothing, and your faith. So I'd like to start with the fact that, and this is a fact, from an intimate perspective, ito yung context, from an intimate perspective between you and God, God loves self-expression. Psalm 89:4 says that, "Shout joyfully to the Lord, all the earth. Break forth and sing for joy and praises." Very emotional, very emphatic. Psalm 47:1 says, "Oh, clap your hands." Naging kanta nga ito, di ba? "Oh, clap your hands, all peoples. Shout to God with the voice of joy." These verses were written by psalmists who felt immense joy towards the Lord. But the Lord also doesn't want to hear praise. Not just praise, He wants to hear your authentic thoughts or your whatever your heart says. In 1 Peter 5-7, God says, or Peter says, "Cast all your anxiety to Him because He cares for you." Psalm 55:22 says, "Cast your burdens upon the Lord and He will sustain you." Again, this is from a very intimate perspective between you and God. And God moves through conversation, talking. You need to talk with God, and that's where intimacy happens. Rather than just doing things in His own without regard to you. He takes you into consideration. That's how precious you are in His sight, even if we don't deserve it, right? I don't deserve it. Nobody deserves, because we're all sinful. But despite our sinfulness, Isaiah 49:16 says, He engraved you on the palms of His hands. Your walls are ever before Him. Psalm 139 expresses that completely and so intimately by saying, "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made." So God loves you to just be yourself before Him. Just be yourself. You don't need to act whatever, act holy. You don't have
Pretend.
to try or pretend or anything. Nothing changes between you and him, whether you wear a hat or not. I don't know.
Because he sees you as you are. Yun nga,
Yeah.
he knit you together in your mother's womb. Kita niya eh. Parang there's no need to put these layers of pretension.
Right.
Or protect ko yung sarili ko from that. Di eh. He sees your heart. He sees everything.
And that's what matters to God. And again, this is in the context of an intimate relationship between you and God. And if you don't have that intimate relationship, anything that we talk about in this MNL might really not make sense. So, I just have to, put that on the table. I do have to touch up on the idea of self very briefly. A lot of times we hear you love yourself, trust yourself, etc. It sounds nice, sounds good, but what does the Bible say about self? And the self, as the Bible says, we are naturally sinful. And there's no way around that. There's no way. Paul talks about the old self, which is our sinful self, in Romans 6. Isaiah 53:6 says that all of us have gone astray. And the sinfulness is rebellion against God. It is our natural tendency to be sinful. Jeremiah 17:9 says, the heart of man is deceitful. Diretsuhan na. The heart of man is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. There are a bunch of sermons that go into depth into this. I just had to put that into clear. But if you're a Christian, you know already that the old sinful nature is being peeled away through sanctification. You're being changed every day, and you are made new by Christ. That's Ephesians 4:25. That's Colossians 3:10, and so on and so forth. Okay, so now that we've put that on the table.
How does this apply?
Yeah.
To what we're talking about this evening.
Yeah, so now that you're made new and that you have a relationship with God, what happens next? Right? And we can't go further without going into the second point, which is, what does your faith have to do with clothing then? Which is actually the point of this video.
Yes.
If I am loved by God, if God just wants to have a relationship with me, does that mean I can wear anything? That is a good question.
Yes, it's something that we will discuss. So maganda that we were able to lay that out na yun nga, we as human beings, we really are deceitful. So parang siguro for some people, they might be thinking, so when I really take my relationship with God seriously, if I really want to grow in my faith, does that mean, in time, mag-change rin yung mga clothing and fashion preferences ko?
Magiging losyang ka na.
Yun, isa yun. That's one of the misconceptions. Then, does it mean that if I really take it seriously, do I have to be frumpy? Do I have to be boring? Parang na ba akong wallflower? What if I used to do it to just really express myself? It's my form of art or self-expression.
Kailangan mo ba buksan yung baul ni Lola?
Oo, ganon.
At magsuot ng Lola dress? Ganon.
Yun ba yun? We'll see throughout this conversation.
Right. So, basically, the answer to the question, what does that mean I can wear anything? The short answer is, for all intents and purposes, yes. But the longer answer is, what does it matter? And we're talking about the individual. As an individual, what does your faith have to do with clothing? So, I'll give you some examples. You take a metropolitan Christian, tapered, with 10-step Korean facial routine, who loves the Lord with all his heart, soul, and strength. Sino ba kayo doon? Then you look across the world,
and then you see another Christian.
And then you see another Christian wearing a tattered t-shirt and shorts, worshiping the Lord in all his poverty. The question there is, who is more godly, the tapered person or the tattered? Does it matter to God even? And, God sees you and I
as equal human beings.
As human beings, equally loved, equally adored. You can't be fully clothed and fully modest. You can be fully clothed and fully modest and be a million miles
malayo
away from
yung
God.
heart mo from the Lord.
Yeah.
So yun fully clothed ka na, parang ganda ng clothing mo, or we can say it na parang we can say it's proper, pero still yung heart mo malayo kay Lord.
Yeah, you can be in the holiest clothing that you can think of and still be a million miles away from God, or you can be naked and poor while being at the center of God's love. What matters most to God is the condition of your heart. Proverbs 23 says na, for as he thinks in his heart, so is he. So even if you don't say anything, God sees it. God sees it. Even if you don't see it, God sees it. Your motives are more important to God, and your motives in what you wear are more important to Him.
Yeah, and of course, yung purpose mo for wearing what you wear, it matters. I think what's important is that we also think of clothing. When we think of clothing as a form of expression of who we are, it also reflects our inner character and also how we express love and respect towards others. Now, many years ago, I remember my attention was called by a well-meaning person from church. Close naman ako sa tao na to but it was about my manner of dressing. So it was according to this person, sabi niya, I was dressing myself in such a revealing manner. And I didn't take offense nga kasi may care naman yung tao, tsaka alam ko talagang from a point of concern lang yung sinasabi niya. And I didn't really sense any parang, hey, I'm better than you, huwag kang magsuot ng ganyan. There was no self-righteousness, there was no hypocrisy when my attention was called, tsaka walang judgment. And then, as I reflected upon the situation, syempre, di ba, pagka na-call yung attention mo na gano'n, minsan, ang tendency mo is you put your defenses up. Di naman ako sexy manamit hindi naman ako sobrang revealing, di ba? But, I'm just grateful that the Lord really used that person to make me think. Sabi ko nga, paano ba ako magbihis? And then I did realize na, shucks, parang masyado siyang revealing for the context of church. And I also had to be real with myself. Bakit ako ganun magbihis? Bakit ko siya ginagawa? So, ang sagot ko doon sa sarili ko, na-discover ko, it was because I wanted to get the attention of the opposite sex. Yun, and in my immature thinking, I thought that was the way to get the attention that I was looking for. So, yeah.
Well, ako rin naman, meron din akong personal experience, pero back then kasi I was a very colorful teenager.
Colorful?
Yeah, colorful, very bright. Ako manamit. I just loved it. I felt like it was the epitome of my personality. Wear colorful clothing. I'd wear matingkad na pink, matingkad na yellow, matingkad na whatever colors of the rainbow there was. And I didn't find anything wrong with it. Up until such time na tinawag yung attention ko ng someone from an older generation. Yeah, someone from an older generation, and then sinabi, masyadong yung pananamit mo. Ako naman parang as a kid or as a teenager, that kind of threw me off. I was so confused. What is wrong with what I'm wearing? Long sleeves na to, sa lagay na yan. I wasn't revealing anything, I mean, nag-workout ako, but, hindi naman ako nagpapakita ng pecs or muscles or whatever. I was just really wearing colorful clothing, and what was wrong with that? Syempre, as a kid, nag-back down na lang ako and, just thought about it. But years later, na-realize ko, maybe it's not so much sa sinusuot ko yung may problema. Baka may problema yung tao lang sa akin. Yeah. Alam mo yun? Sometimes ganun yung perspective na wala naman inherently wrong sa sinusuot mo. Yung tao lang talaga na nakaharap mo, yung may issue sa'yo. And if I were to go back in time, what I could have done was actually approach properly the person and ask, why do you think my clothing is ganito, ganyan? Is there anything inherently wrong with what I'm wearing? Diba? And in my heart, I don't think I did anything wrong. But just for the sake of, get things clear, kasi bata rin lang naman ako nun, I didn't wear anything as colorful na as before. It's really just plain t-shirt, jeans. That's it,
But yeah, now that you brought up that story, even if kunwari, no, maybe if it were today and then something like that happened, ako rin, if you brought that situation to me, I'd be thinking then, maybe it's more of just the colors. Maybe the person feels like, yun nga, baka siya lang yung may issue. But if we really look back, pag titingnan natin yung situation, wala ka namang sinasagasaan. And when you mentioned that when you were dressing in that way, it was really the epitome of your joy, your expression. It's not like you wanted to dress in those colors because you wanted to make an arrival and make people look at you. Pero attention is on me.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't like that. So even if your attention was caught, it's very important din na pagka kunwari, ganun, meron mga situations that people call your attention, you check your heart as well, and then you also go to the Lord. Kasi minsan din, pagka naniwala naman tayo, agad. And we don't check with the Lord. Diba?
We put rules upon ourselves that are not necessarily necessary. Diba? Sabihin natin, ganito pala dapat mamuhay kasi somebody said so. And suddenly, we're not following the Lord, we're following what somebody said 20 years ago. Parang ganon. Right, so just to summarize everything, I'd like to call out Luke 6:45, where it says, "The good person out of the good treasure of his heart produces good, and the evil person out of his evil treasure produces evil. Out of abundance of his heart, his mouth speaks." So it's really more of, the Bible really emphasizes on what's important is in the heart. What is the condition of your heart? During that moment or when you're wearing whatever. And it's difficult to go on without going to the next point, which is actually community, kasi papunta na tayo doon. We're talking about your individual and putting yourself in society.
Plugging yourself into a community.
So we're going to our third point, which is community, clothing, and faith. So let me start off with this. You are born, and you cannot help it, you are born in a social context. No matter what happens, whether you like it or not, you are born in a social context. What is modest to a certain social context is different from another. Diba?
Yes.
What is proper for a certain social context may be risky to another. Even in the same culture, proper varies. And you can't go to you can't go to a formal party or event in whatever you just got out of your closet, right?
Naka-pajamas ka lang.
Naka-pajamas ka lang, di ba? Naka-shorts, naka-t-shirt.
Yeah.
I mean, even if sabihin natin you're Kanye West and you want to set a fashion statement,
you have to dress appropriately for the occasion. Because, balik nga tayo doon, di ba? Kanina we touched on, it's an expression of respect and your love also for others, for your community.
And going back while God doesn't mind what you wear, just keep that in mind. Sometimes people do around you mind, and God actually minds how you treat others, and so the question now arises, how do you navigate around that? How do you navigate having your own personality, wanting to do self-expression, but at the same time living in a society with certain social contexts? Parang the moment you are born, you are placed into a social construct, if you will. Now, you really can't get out of. I mean, it's reality.
Ano ba, Kuya Dave, yung mga example ng mga social constructs na to? Maybe we can just, give some... Like here, sa Philippines, diba, yung social construct natin, diba, yung manner natin ng pananamit, what the Philippines, di ba nga yung Philippines kunwari dito sa Manila, diba? Iba rin siya pagka you take it to a different part of the Philippines. Yun yung parang sinasabi natin na the social context that you're born into. If we can also use the example of sa South Africa, for example, di ba? Iba rin yung kinalakihan nila, or kunwari, if you're born in that country, that sphere, you also have a different idea. What is proper, what is not.
Exactly. Kunyari, formal attire, especially in Metropolitan Manila, is like something similar to what I'm wearing. You have your coat, and then sa loob, meron kayong polo, and sometimes necktie, and that's formal attire. But when you go to same country, the Philippines, you go to the north, which is where you go to the Igorot, iba ang formal attire nila. Very exotic for us, it looks exotic, but for them, it's really just culture.
Yeah.
Diba? You go to a different part of the world, same thing. You know, iba yung itsura ng prim and proper sa kanila. Diba?
And what is beautiful to them, diba? There are some cultures na they put on all of these long, ano yung mga, they stack
rings?
the neck, they stack the rings because for them, a longer neck is more beautiful.
Something like that,
diba?
yeah.
Tapos yan, some of them even just wear yung mga accessories lang, and that for them is already clothing. But then again, that is their social context.
Yeah, that's their social context, and you cannot escape that. You cannot escape that when you're born into it. And this is where community comes in. You know, God calls believers into community. God designed people to be in community. And the Trinity in itself, the three persons in one God, that is community. God is manifesting community in the Trinity. And you and God are community. You conversing with God, that's already community. You and other believers are also community. And that's why God says to his people in Leviticus, I walk among you, and will be your God, and you shall be my people. So there's a people, and there's God, and then there's that relationship with both people and God. Paul urges in 1 Corinthians 12:27 says, you are the body of Christ and individual members of it. So you cannot escape community, and God calls us to community. And while your clothing doesn't matter to God, he is concerned about your love for your community.
Yes, because how you treat one another is more important to God than what you wear. Because you can be dressed in the finest, the most modest of clothes. You can even be stylish. Ultimately, ang pinaka-importante talaga kay God then is what is in your heart. How do you treat people? If your clothing causes you to be self-righteous, looking down at others who don't dress like you do, then you may need a heart check.
Yeah. Yeah, you can judge people who wear some absurd clothing because you think you're all that, and vice versa. Yung baka ganun din yung sinasabi sa'yo, ano? What matters most to God is the condition of your heart. When you think of what you're wearing, and when you think of what other people are wearing, and when you're interacting with other people, what matters most to God is your love for Him, your relationship with Him, and how you treat others as well. Kasi, di ba, I think it's in Matthew 5, I can't remember. Somewhere near the Beatitudes ba yun? Yung tipong, when people see you, you know, they're supposed to see God. You know, when they see you move, when they see you do the things that you do, who do you reflect? About what do you show? Who are you in front of people? And people will know you by your fruit. Diba?
Okay, let's go through some so let's just go through the chat here. Maybe if you people have questions, or if you have some points that you'd also like to share, feel free to just type it down in the chat box. Hi to Tenten, Jotham, nanonood yan from Davao.
Yeah.
Yan, and then who else? Ayan, si Teo is also here. Pastor JP, of course. Will we wait for them to put in the questions?
Right. So I guess we can do Q&A right now, and we're gonna read through the questions. I'd just like to cap our discussion with these main points. And first, really, is your heart matters more to God than what you wear. And after that, parang just emanates. And then, no matter what you do, the fact is, you live in a social context. You cannot escape it. You live in a society with what is acceptable and what is not, you know. And how you navigate it is really matuto kang lumugar by being sensitive to the Holy Spirit. Again, like yung sinasabi namin ni Ingrid, when you're in a formal setting, wear something formal. When you're in public, you know, wear something publicly acceptable. But at the end of the day, you know, your heart matters more to God. So, I guess we go to the Q&A. Okay. So, let's go through the questions in the chat.
Mga greets na yan.
Ito. Right. from Theo, from Kuya Theo. Are all self-expression acceptable to Christians? Wow, that's a very loaded. So when you say all, what do you mean by all? Ano? Diba? Parang may extremes kasi na self-expression. Some people express themselves through art, through clothing, acceptable to Christians. And when you say, ang tanong lang naman dito is acceptable to Christians. Again, you're born into a society where sometimes Christians have different norms than others.
How you express, kunwari, yung self-expression mo, may not sit well with me, diba? Hindi naman, ibig sabihin nun, because it doesn't sit well with me, sa iba rin, hindi na din siya.
Yeah, and so how do you manage that? I guess you get to talk to the person. I think the best way is really talk to the person. That's the issue. Just like my example from my own experience, I wish I could have talked to whoever had an issue with me wearing colorful clothing.
Parang ask them, why is it offensive to you? You're also going to try to understand yung context nila.
Yeah, I want to know where they're coming from. Na parang masakit ba? May eye condition ka ba na masakit sa mata yung matingkad?
Yung mga kulay.
Oo, yung mga kulay. Ewan ko, I don't know really. And because in my heart, I know I just love the Lord and I love wearing, whatever. Diba? And it's not really, there's nothing inherently wrong naman, diba? So I hope that kind of answers Theo's question. You can just, message us. So looking at the chat box pa.
Sige.
PJP says, this is not a question but has a statement. We should be the last to judge people with their clothing. That's true. Yeah, we should be the last to judge people with their clothing. Okay.
Si Carl is here.
Yeah, Carl is here from España. Carl asks, what civilization are you wearing?
Civilization.
This is kind of an inside joke between all of us.
Carl kasi, of course, if you know Carl, he's a huge, he's a history graduate, diba? He's a history buff. And common question yan, what civilization are you wearing? From what civilization?
Yeah, there was this one time I was wearing a scarf that has all these intricate patterns, and he asked me what civilization I was wearing. I said, I'm from Wakanda. Wakanda forever. Okay. So, Theo again has a question. So, as Christian, nasaan ang line between tolerating and giving grace in ignorance and acceptance of sin in terms of self-expression? I guess, kanina yung pinag-usapan natin was not necessarily regards to sin, but more of self-expression. But if that self-expression is sinful, let's go to extremes like murder. I want to express myself through murder. I think that's not even close to tolerable. That's not even close to giving any grace because that's outright sin. If sabihin natin your self-expression is meant to be offensive to other people, that's also unacceptable because the motive of the heart is to be offensive. The motive of the heart wants to hurt other people. The motive of the heart is again not in line with God. If your motive is in line with God, then mas in between persons na lang yung issue. But if your heart is right with God, then why not have that self-expression? And again, let's try to limit it to just clothing. But thank you, Theo, for those questions. Asking for a friend. Okay.
Sino yung friend na yan? Theo rin.
Sino ba yung friend na yan? So, next question. Diadem. What about people who call you for misrepresenting Jesus or become a stumbling block?
Again, ang maganda dyan, if they call you out, have a conversation with them. Hindi lang yung pwedeng they call you out and hindi mo maintindihan. Basta, sasabihin nila, basta stumbling block ka. Basta, you're misrepresenting. Yeah. Have a conversation. Yun nga, try to understand. So, if you can ask those questions, para maintindihan mo rin. Kasi, minsan din, meron ding ugali na, you're misrepresenting. Pero when you ask them to explain, they can't.
O baka naman,
offensive lang sa kanila.
Actually, sila may issue lang. Sila lang, specifically yung may issue. Remember, 100 years ago, makita mo lang yung ankles. Scandalous na yun. Diba? And that's just ankles. You know, paano kung nahangin lang? Alam mo yun, iba-iba yung nakikita ng mga iba-ibang tao, iba yung mga pinanggagalingan. And again, we're born into a society. Let's give a very extreme example. What if you're from a tribe that lahat ng tao, it's a tropical tribe, lahat ng tao naka-topless. Tapos everybody, men and women, nakapalda. Yun lang talaga yung clothing. Is that malicious? But they're Christians. Sabihin natin, there was a missionary, pumunta doon, naging Christian sila. Diba? Parang may mali siya ba yun? Or hindi? But they're Christians, but they love God. Again, we're born into a society that we can't escape, you know? And the best way really is to have a conversation. If you really know in your heart you're not violating anything. Diba? If somebody tells you, oh, you're misrepresenting Jesus, I mean, ask them to explain. Syempre, not abrasively, of course. The purpose really is to know what's the problem. Diba?
Tsaka how am I misrepresenting Jesus? Kasi lalabas rin doon yung pagka-interpret nila kay Jesus.
Yeah,
diba?
Right. That's right. You know,
yung understanding rin nila kay Jesus.
Yeah.
Lalabas din. Okay, how do we deal with those older generation people who judge those by what they wear? How can we respond to those comments with grace and as youths?
Well, mahirap yan. Pero firstly, again, let's go back to the idea na dapat lumugar ka. If you're in a room with elderly people, elderly talaga, older people, and you know that they might have a certain affinity towards certain clothing, then, you know, just try not to rock the boat, you know. Because, you know, sabihin natin we're in Sunday service, regular Sunday service, and you know, majority of the people there are mas matanda. Mas matanda yung mga taong yun. And they might have certain ideas of what should be worn. Diba? Mag-iiba din yun kung youth lang kasama mo na pwedeng naka-t-shirt and jeans ka lang, alam mo yun, or naka-chaleco or whatever. Chaleco talaga. Diba?
Chaleco talaga.
Oo. Diba? Parang, again, matuto lumugar. Yun lang talaga. I know that as older people, and I super understand this, I know that we have expectations of older people to be more understanding. Diba? I expected older people, parang people that have gone ahead of me, to be more understanding of my youthness, na my inability to express what I need to express, therefore it comes out this way and that way. But at the end of the day, I was called out for it, and I was said so many names, and I was judged for it, and that kind of left me scarred. You know, even up to this day, sometimes it comes back. But I realized na tipong, you know, we live in a society. You know, we live in a society. We live in a social context. We live with people who have certain beliefs. And, you know, if you know that majority of that congregation does not like a certain way of dressing, try not to rock the boat, because you're in that place for a certain reason, which is to worship God, not to distract people. You know, if you're in youth worship and nobody cares what you look like, they just care about worshiping God, why not? Diba? Yun lang naman yung important, you know. All right, let's go on to other questions. Alanis, how do you tell someone to dress appropriately without sounding offensive or judgmental? You want to take that one?
How do you tell someone to dress more appropriately without sounding? Siguro ako, taking it lang from my experience, how I felt yung love din ng person na concerned. Malalaman mo naman kasi I think it's very important also na may relationship din. Yun. hindi naman sa parang bigla mo na lang pupuntahan yung tao. Tapos, tara friends tayo. Tapos sasabihan mo na, you get to know the person. And I think rin ikaw kasi, if you see someone na parang, naku, medyo, you feel like it's inappropriate, you wanna try to understand bakit ganun. And then maybe, yung approach mo dun sa tao before you call him or her out or sabihan mo siya, bigyan mo siya ng advice, medyo mag-iiba rin. Parang, okay, ganito kasi siya. So, instead of just outrightly calling a person out, try to have a relationship with the person and then try to get to know the person. And that will also help you to know what how to communicate it well to them na hindi sila ma-offend kasi iintindihan mo na kung saan sila nanggagaling, ano yung context nila, bakit ganon. And I think it will also parang be beneficial kasi they would know that it's coming from a friend.
Saka practical tip, never say kasi kunyari you come up to a person and say na napansin kasi namin. Never say namin.
Ibig sabihin, napag-usapan nyo na siya.
Yeah, exactly. Lalabas, bigla na lang, ay, shucks, napag-usapan na pala ako ng mga taong ito. People are talking about my clothing, ganyan. Feeling so judgmental, ganyan. Ganun yung lalabas. Approach them, say, I saw that you're wearing this, ganyan, and, I don't wanna come off as ganyan, whatever. Just approach that person as a person and how you see that person and what you feel about that person, and you're just being raw and candid. Wag ka namang damay ng ibang tao and by saying na napansin kasi namin, pinag-usapan namin, or napansin ng mga taong ganito at sinabihan lang ako.
Diba? Ayun, isa pa yun, parang it's conniving kasi instead of the other people, sige, maybe they're concerned, but they don't have the balls or they don't have the guts to go up and correct the person. So, anong nangyayari? Nag-exchange sila ng information, pinag-uusapan nila yung pananamit ng isang tao. Hindi naman nila ma-call out to express their concern.
Yeah.
So, isipin mo tuloy, are they really concerned or do they just really want to talk about me and how I wear, how I dress myself?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, perfect example. All right. So, follow-up question from Diadem. Where does accountability come in? Yun nga, lapitan mo yung tao. Kapag nahihiya ka, wag mo na pag-usap. Ganito, if you, as a person, you saw someone, like, sa tingin mo, you really believe that person isn't wearing appropriate attire, don't go to, like, somebody else and say, alam mo ba, si ganito ganyan, inappropriate yung attire. Wag nang ganun. That's really gonna create more rifts, more gossip. Lapitan mo yung tao. Or if you're really not confident, I trust...
Lord, ako sabi mo.
Yeah, exactly.
Lord, ako lang ba to? Inappropriate talaga.
And that's one, You pray to God.
Pray to God, oo. Kasi baka meron din sa heart mo na hindi, Yun nga, baka ikaw yung kailangan makorek.
And then second, I believe you can trust your youth leaders. I think your youth leaders are mature enough para lapitan. Pag nilapitan nyo sila, and you wanna call out someone, how do I do it? It's really more of a practical advice, or more of asking for practical advice. How do I approach it? Paano ko sasabihin? Ganito, ganyan, etc. Yun. So, yeah, that's where accountability comes in. So, from Carl, are we guilty if another person falls into looking at us in a lustful way simply because of how or what we wear? Okay. Actually, napag-usapan namin ni Ingrid ito, So, kumbaga, that's why it becomes tricky. From an individual perspective, it really doesn't matter what you wear in front of God. You can be naked and be worshiping, or you can be fully clothed and worshiping, and it doesn't matter. But what matters is, pag lumabas ka na, when you inject yourself into society, you inject yourself into the eyes of other people who may not take as kindly into that, and maybe, just maybe, sabihin natin, you're not to blame. For example, maybe you're not to blame. Sabihin natin you're wearing just normal clothing and somebody lusts because of you wore something. That's not really your problem, but I really hope who that person is, kung yung tao na naglust, sana lapitan ka at sabihin sa'yo, parang ganito yung naisip ko and sorry, baka, alam mo yun, I think as a society, we need to be able to talk about things that may be taboo or like even just our feelings. We need to be able to articulate how we feel to one another, to other people, and that's how community happens. God calls us to be community. God calls us to be intimate and have relationship with others. And I think honest conversation is where that starts. Okay, PJP. Before I get called out for my preppy clothes, I started to wear athletic joggers and hoodies. Ayun.
Hindi maintindihan do kung bakit siya mako-call out sa preppy clothes niya. I mean, the way that I do PJP, maayos siya manamit. Yun. So, if people have an issue with that, I don't know why.
Yeah.
Preppy yun, pero bakit?
Yeah, I guess, for PJP, I hope whoever says that to you comes up to you and tells you what's wrong with you, because I don't see anything wrong with you. Kasi mahal kita eh.
Next.
So, Gianna, asking for a friend, how come in previous youth camps there was a strict dress code implemented if the heart matters more to God than what you wear? Again, youth camp, we live in a society. Diba? Parang going back to yung different namin. Last 5 minutes na daw. Naku, ang ganda ng discussion kasi. Syempre, we're trying to be the best minimum na required para walang mastumble. Alam mo yun, we live in a... Kumbaga, you don't even have to say it. We understand that there are things na maselan at may things na hindi. I mean, sorry, you live in Metro Manila. You have to cover a lot of things. Diba? And what we're avoiding is really just a lot of issues. Diba?
Tsaka yung mga accidental shows of ganito, diba? Because you protect certain body parts, diba? And there are some clothes. Minsan kasi, diba, ano mong ginagawa sa youth camp, marami tayong mga activities.
Na nababasa.
Ganito ka lang, nababasa, o ganito, may maiangat ka lang na ganito. Even if you're not intending to show it, it's going to show. Yun. So,
we're really just trying to avoid a lot of issues, but then again, going back to just those 2 points, as an individual, your heart matters more to God than what you wear, but at the same time, you're injected into a society where sometimes ma-judge ka. Ma-judge ka for what you wear. So we're really just trying to avoid all of that, all of those issues, and we're in youth camp. We're dealing with kids who don't know how to process certain stimuli. Alam mo yun, na, just trying to avoid a lot of different issues na can be discussed in isolation with said people, said persons. But yun, I hope that answers the question. So, last 3 questions na lang daw. What are you guys' thoughts on some people in leadership positions who like to wear expensive designer clothing? And
the guys on the preachers and sneakers.
Preachers and sneakers. I saw that. Okay, that's the third to the last question. Second to the last question. Do we need to suppress our self-expression to please older people? That's second to the last question. And sorry, this is going to be the third to the last question. Where do you draw the line between having your heart right with the Lord yet simultaneously causing someone to sin? And when they see you, how do you find this balance? All right, so these are, shucks, ang dami pang mga questions, pero that's the only time we have for this discussion. So okay, let's go back to what are your thoughts on expensive designer clothing? Preachers and sneakers. I saw that Instagram. Tipong they take pictures of pastors, and they show their expensive shoes. It's their money. I guess specifically for that Instagram account, I think the pastors also should understand that they also live in a fishbowl. Especially pastors. I mean, pastors are human too. They have desires. They're exactly like us. But the difference is they're really put on a fishbowl, and sometimes nahuhusgahan sila na tipong, oh, you're supposed to be called to poverty kung kuno, as a lay minister.
Paano kung may nagbigay? Bigay lang, o, diba?
Pwede rin,
hindi ba,
paano kung magbigay?
pag nagbigay, di ba nila isusot? Kasi, nakakait, di ba?
Yeah.
Naman pwedeng ganun. So, tama ka, yun nga, they're put in a fishbowl, and sometimes, sinusuot lang nila because it was given to them. They're really grateful for it. Maybe it's an answered prayer, di ba?
Answered prayer.
Pero dahil sinuot lang nila, sabihin, oh, they're flexing. Pero iba rin naman ang dating nun if they're actually flexing it, di ba? Kasi may mga, hindi rin naman,
hindi natin malalaman Hindi natin malalaman, and we really need to examine their hearts. I have yet to, do an in-depth study on how they do their preaching and anong lumalabas sa preaching nila. Mayabang ba tao mga to? Hindi natin alam. Hindi ko alam. Again, going to their hearts, but face value, asking if okay lang yung ginagawa nila. I mean, wear whatever, wear the most expensive sneakers. As long as siguro sana hindi nang galing sa church money. Nako!
Ay, pero may mga gano'n.
Anyway, not talking about that. Alright.
Designer suits.
Alright. Second to the last question.
Ayan, nandito na.
Right. Do we need to suppress our self-expression to please older people? And there's a short answer and there's a long answer. Short answer is no. That's a short answer. Do not take out of context. Please. Baka mabash na naman tayo online. Alam mo na, uso yan, di ba? Again, nothing out of context. Short answer, you do not have to please older people. The only person you need to please is God. But, again, if you really want to express yourself sobrang fully, to the full extent, don't do it in front of older people. I mean, that's really just it, There are other avenues, other audiences that would be more accepting of that self-expression, that form of art. I'll just give this example. Remember, there was this controversial music video ng Hillsong, yung Peace ba yun? Alam mo yun? Parang,
yun nga ba yun?
Parang Peace ba yun? They had this controversial music video na a lot of people are saying, sobrang demonic ng images.
Yeah, that one.
But it was actually a really good song. My personal take on it, it was a really good song. It talked about depression, struggling with depression, being a Christian, and being depressed. And when I was watching it, the imagery, the kind of disturbing imagery that was presented in the music video actually resonated with me. Because these are feelings that I felt. And all the more, I got attracted to the music video and I was so happy about it. And then I saw the Christian community's comments on it. They're saying it's so demonic, it's so disturbing, ganyan-ganyan, parang horror movie. And I was shocked. Because, teka lang, this music video affected me in such an intimate way. But other people, just saw it as some clickbait. Attempt of Hillsong.
Ako nung una ko rin nakita, iba rin yung dating sa akin. Sabi ko,
diba?
Bakit ganito? But yun nga iba yung how you receive it
Right, yeah.
Gulat din ako dun.
There's also a point na sometimes you can just ignore. Because again, at the end of the day, si God lang yung piniplease mo, hindi yung sarili mo. Or hindi yung whatever desire that you have. At the end of the day, or some old people or some group of people, as long as you know that in your heart that you're doing nothing wrong, number one, you're not violating also some wide social properness, like covering private parts, and not being too revealing. Again, too revealing is also has different layers. Choose your audience. And you know that in your heart, you're not really doing anything wrong. In your heart when you go into this community, hindi ka i-judge ng community na yun. Just choose your circle. Yeah. choose your circle, and if you can help it, suppress in a certain situation, but not every time. You choose your circle of friends. Okay, last question. Where do you draw the line between having your heart right with the Lord, number one, yet simultaneously causing someone to sin, second, and how do you find the balance? Maybe you want to take that one.
Yung question, no? Where do you draw the line between...
It's actually 3 questions, but okay lang.
Yun nga, if we go back to what we were discussing earlier, what's really important is, tama ba yung heart mo with the Lord? You check your motives, you check yung purpose mo. Are you expressing respect and love towards the community, towards others? Are you also mindful of the context, yung social context nga? Yung simultaneously causing someone to sin naman. The way I'm receiving this question, simultaneously causing someone to sin. Nagsisin sila because
I can think of something. You're like wearing, let's put it as simple as wearing t-shirt and jeans. So you're just wearing t-shirt and jeans, nothing inherently wrong, nobody's thinking of anything, you're not thinking of anything, you're just thinking, I'm wearing tropical wear, tropical casual wear. But for some men, I guess, we're talking about women, that might be too tight for them. Like the jeans might be too tight. And parang ganun. How do you deal with that? Parang you're wearing something that's too tight. Balot na balot ka naman, but you're wearing something too tight. I think that's what it means na you might be causing someone to sin. Tama ba yun? I'm just speculating. So how do you deal with that?
How do you find the balance?
Yeah.
The way I see it nga, kung wala naman siyang nilabag, yun nga, naka-t-shirt and jeans naman. Balot naman siya. If they find it too, sinabihan, masyadong tight yung mo na parang na-attract ako or something. Tama ba? Are we getting it correctly?
Right. It's actually very difficult to, kasi iba-iba yung makikita ng mga tao. But I hope that in that
for
situation...
some naman, kasi if you use that example, for some, they might think, yung mga kunwari, simpleng jeans and t-shirt naman, they might think, it's too basic, it's too basic, it's too casual, while some others who would see it would it will cause them to sin, di ba?
And well, the question really is, how do you find the balance? And actually, the end of the day, there is no one magic bullet answer. When you say magic bullet, if I wear this, okay na ba ako forever? Not necessarily. Community means having conversation. Community means having dialogue, and that's really how life is. That's how history happens. That's how civilizations. Hi, Carl. That's how civilizations happen. Through communication, through talking to one another, saying, hey, do you have a problem with what I wear? Or, hey, I have a problem with what you wear because I think this, that, etc., etc. And I think a society is supposed to be based on proper dialogue. And kung sa mga history majors, alam niyo yun, dialectics ang tawag doon. Historical dialectics, how certain events are in conversation with one another, and that's how they develop. That's how things evolve. That's how we reach to agreement. Diba? We agree to disagree, we agree to compromise, we agree to a lot of things. There's a lot of clarification that needs to happen because, at the end of the day, we're not mind readers. You can't read anybody's mind. So I think that is how I can best answer that question. Hopefully that was very satisfactory. So, key bonus question. What is bonus question? Anyway, I'm not gonna read that. So, again, thank you for your questions. I hope there are clarities. I guess nag-overtime tayo ng a bit. Talked about a lot of things about history, about purpose of clothing, the individual in clothing, self-expression, and plugging yourself into community. So we're just gonna cap it off. Thank you for your questions.
Thank you.
We're gonna go back to our main points. Number 1 is your heart matters more to God than what you wear. but also you live in a society that has rules, that has, notions, and the only way to get through that society is, just have dialogue and matutong lumugar. When you sense that a certain situation calls for certain clothing, then that's it, Yeah. So let's end with prayer. So may I ask you to close us?
All right, let's pray. Lord, we thank you for this opportunity that we get to talk about issues like this. We thank you, Lord, for guiding us, and we thank you for everyone who's come to join us this evening. We just pray that you continue to enlighten us through our personal time with you, through your word, and also as we keep in touch, as we connect with our groups, our disciplers, and our fellow believers, that we get to learn from what you teach them, from their experience. And we just pray that we would always remember to glorify you in what we do, and to always check our hearts. Be mindful of our motives. And we just give thanks to you, Lord, for everyone. We thank you for the team behind MNL Monday Night Live, and we just give thanks to you for this day and this opportunity. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. And so, would you like to read that one?
Sorry, text now.
Yeah. So, I guess stay tuned for the next MNL. Same time, same place, 8:30 next week, Monday. We're gonna have a lot of other speakers as well, and my poll usually, you decide what questions that need to be answered. Ngayon, if you have more questions to be clarified about clothing and what is proper and improper, you can just drop your youth leaders a message. You can drop us a message, and we can have like coffee, like digital coffee, because we can't have real coffee. Manilibre sana ko. Yeah.
Talaga? Talaga to?
Kahit mga 10 pa yan. Ganun. So stay tuned for the next week's MNL, same time, same place, and
stay safe. Stay connected with the friends and everyone from Youth Live. Don't forget to follow the social media pages, GCF Youth Live on Facebook, as well as on YouTube for the next Monday Night Live.
Alright, see ya. Bye-bye.